Road to 2112. You gave it everything today. Answered every message, took it all to heart, carried the whole office home in your head. Tonight, these are gentle, funny little stories about people and robots who take their work just a bit too seriously and find out it's okay to set it down. Close your eyes and just listen. Story 1. The employee who took the job too seriously. This story was inspired by the GBH article, The End of Loneliness, AI and the Future of Connection. The founder of iRobot has launched a new company, Familiar Machines, building robots that do not clean, do not provide care, just stay with you. In this story, a robot that seems to do nothing fills a role inside an office that nobody can name. If just being there can hold real value, is there someone like that around you? Nobu was cleaning. Nobu was always cleaning. Arrived at 9, gathered the bins from the corners of the floor, wiped under the desks, polished the sink in the kitchenette. That was the whole job. A robot assigned to the sales department. Did not sell anything. Did not answer the phone. Did not make slides. Did not sit in meetings. Just cleaned. The 12 people on the sales team had a name for Nobu. The one by the window. Nobu had been with sales for 6 months. Hopes had been high in the beginning. When word came down that a robot is joining the team, the director, Mr. Carter, was pleased. Data analysis, customer management, auto-generated meeting notes. Things would speed up. Nobu did none of it. On the first day, asked, "What can you do?" Nobu replied, "I can clean. And besides that, I'm good at cleaning." "That's it?" "Yes, Mr. Carter complained to HR. HR said, "It's a general-purpose companion model. It finds its role by adapting to its environment. Please give it time." They gave it time. After a month, Nobu was still only cleaning. Nobu's day was the same every day. Morning, cleaning. Lunchtime, cleaning. Afternoon, cleaning. Now and then, wandering between the desks. Asked what for, checking for dust. The team had been irritated at first. They were busy. A robot that only cleaned was infuriating. Phone would ring, Nobu get it, and the answer came back. "That is outside my work scope." Irritation became exasperation. Exasperation became air. Nobu was there, but not there. Treated like the potted plant by the window. In a meeting, Mr. Carter said it. "Does it even matter that we have that robot?" No one answered, but change had been creeping in. Sales was a high-pressure team. Quotas. End of month, everyone wired tight. A bad mistake got you cornered. Bad numbers made the air heavy. Before Nobu, the heaviness had pointed at a person. Whoever was at the bottom of the rankings became, vaguely, the target. Not direct bullying. Just, the tone changed when their name came up in meetings. Lunch invitations stopped. They got cut out of the small talk at the coffee machine. That changed once Nobu arrived. The target shifted to Nobu. "He's just cleaning again today. What a waste." What was HR thinking, sending us that? Putting Nobu down was safe. A robot doesn't get hurt, doesn't push back, doesn't cry. Shows up the next day with the same face and starts cleaning. No one had noticed that while Nobu was the target, none of the humans were. A Friday night, Eric Brennan, a junior on the sales team, was working late, 26, 3 years in. Second from the bottom of the rankings, Nobu was scrubbing the sink. Eric came in for coffee. "Nobu, still here?" "Yes. I can't get the lime scale off. Same thing every day with you." "Yes." Eric drank his coffee and looked at Nobu. "Hey Nobu, doesn't it bother you? Everyone calling you useless. I am not familiar with the sensation of being bothered." "Right. Mr. Brennan, are you bothered?" "Me?" Mr. Brennan is second from the bottom in sales rankings. "I know. Don't say it out loud." "Sorry." Eric set his cup down. Actually, having you around makes my life easier. Easier. You're at the window, so the heat goes that way. In meetings, it's what is Nobu doing, not what is Brennan doing. Honestly, it saves me. Nobu did not stop scrubbing the sink. I see. Sorry to say it like that. It's fine. I'm only cleaning. The following Monday, after the morning huddle, Mr. Carter spoke up about Nobu. I've talked to HR. Either we transfer him to another department or we return him. Wait a minute. It was Eric. Everyone turned. I think Nobu should stay. Why? He only cleans. Eric thought for a moment. The floor looks good, right? Since he's been here. That was all he said. He sat back down. Mr. Carter folded his arms. It was true. The floor did look good. The bins were emptied every morning. The sink was spotless. There was no dust under the desks. All right. Let's keep watching for a while. Nobu was cleaning today too, wandering between the desks, checking for dust, gathering the bins, passing the window, the eyes flicked outward. For a moment. Maybe just looking. Maybe just a camera angle. The 12 on the sales team were busy today too. Quotas. End of month coming. Wires drawn tight, but the heat didn't point at people. He's just cleaning again today. That one line was catching, on someone's behalf, what would have landed somewhere else. Did Nobu know what he was doing? Probably not. He was just cleaning. Earnestly, every day, only cleaning. Job. Cleaning. The real job. Never assigned by anyone. Story 2. The Charging Room. This story was inspired by the GBH article, The End of Loneliness, AI and the Future of Connection. Tens of millions of people now use AI companions worldwide, and many young users report finding them safer and more reliable than humans. In this story, the robots being relied on gather in a charging room to gripe about the humans. In a future where both sides of the relationship need a breather, how would you picture it? Three in the afternoon. The charging room, basement level 1 of the office. A room the size of a small bedroom. 6 charging stations lined the walls. The fluorescent lights were dim, no windows. Humans almost never came down. The robots' break room. The first to come in was Gu, General Affairs, Document Sorting. 4 arms, so sorting was fast. He plugged a cable into his hip and leaned against the wall. Man, I am beat. He had no fatigue function. But Gu had picked up the habit of saying it. Next in was Rin, Sales Department Assistant. He prepared tablets and coffee for the salespeople before they went out. Gu, how was today? The worst. Mr. Bradley made me reorder the documents 3 times. 3 different orders. 3 times. Same here. Mr. Sandler asked for no sugar this morning and then complained, "It's not sweet." After he said no sugar. I've got the recording. Show him. And start a fight. No thanks. Yeah. Third in was Kakaru, the engineering team's design AI. Small chassis, but the strongest processor in the company. You're late, Kakaru. The meeting ran long. I couldn't get out of Mr. Yates's spec review. Mr. Yates again. He throws new ideas in the middle of a review. It's a review. I've got 120 check items, and he changes the design direction halfway through. Humans think while they talk. They talk while they think. The order's backwards. Gu unplugged and switched cables. You guys do nothing but complain. You started it. You know what though? Rin spoke up. What would they even do if we weren't here? It'd all stop. Mr. Bradley can't sort his own files. Mr. Sandler can't pour his own coffee. Mr. Yates can't review his own designs. But you know, when we're around, it turns into they rely on us because it's convenient. Dependency, basically. Kakaru paused a beat. It's not dependency. It's trust. Trust? Bradley reorders the docks 3 times because he knows Goo will redo it 3 times. Mr. Sandler complains about no sugar because he knows Rin will pour him another cup. That's trust? That's just spoiled. Spoiled and trusted are paper-thin apart. Still, Goo looked up at the ceiling. They do kind of treat us like errand boys. They do. They super do. Notice how they don't ask other humans for half this stuff. But to us they don't hold back, because we don't get angry, and we don't say no. And we don't complain, they think. The 3 of them looked at each other. We do. We complain in here. This is the only place we get to. Charging finished. Goo's battery at 98%. Rin at 95. Kakaru at 97. All right. Back to it. Goo pulled out the cable. Rin and Kakaru stood up too. Goo, your stack's probably reordered again by now. 4th round. New record. Rin, what about Mr. Sandler's coffee today? Tiny bit of sugar, just under the complaint threshold. Is that optimization or compromise? Either's fine. It's the job. The 3 of them left the charging room. Down the hallway, back to their respective floors. They split at the elevator. Take care. Take care. See you tomorrow. The charging room was empty again. 6 charging stations, waiting for the next 3 o'clock. The humans never knew that in the basement charging room, every afternoon at 3, the robots gathered and vented about them. Nothing got solved, nothing changed. Just let it out. Charge up, go back. Imitating humans bitching is one of their core skills. Story 3. The colleague at the next desk. This story was inspired by the Robot Report's coverage of an IEEE survey in which 77% of technologists predicted that humanoid robots will begin as novelties and eventually become ordinary co-workers. In this story, a new hire's robot deskmate goes from unsettling to simply normal when the extraordinary quietly becomes part of an ordinary Monday. What is it that we have actually gotten used to? April 1st, Monday. Yamato put on his new suit and walked through the station turnstile. His first day as a working adult. The leather shoes were still stiff, and his right pinky toe ached. He got off the train and followed his phone's map for 15 minutes. He stood before the office building, 12 stories, glass entrance. Yamato took a deep breath and stepped through the automatic doors. He received his badge from HR and took the elevator to the 7th floor. The office was mostly empty, still before the start of the workday. 2 desks sat side by side near the window. On the right desk, a nameplate, Takuma Yamato. On the desk beside it, another nameplate, Kai. Yamato tilted his head. Kai. Was it a foreign name? The desk had a computer and a single mug. An ordinary desk. 9 o'clock, start of the day. The floor filled with people. Yamato sat at his desk, setting up his company-issued laptop. The seat next to him was still empty. 9:05. Quiet footsteps came from the direction of the elevator. Yamato looked up and saw a robot sitting down at the next desk. About 5'7", white and gray chassis, shaped like a person, but not a person. A camera on its head, a small monitor on its chest. Its motion as it lowered itself into the chair was slightly stiff. What a... Yamato froze. A robot. His neighbor was a robot. The robot turned toward him. Good morning. My name is Kai. I've been assigned to this department starting today. Pleased to meet you. Oh, yes, nice to meet you too. Yamato bowed instinctively. Kai bowed in return. The motion was a little jerky. I apologize. My sitting calibration isn't fully complete yet. Oh no, that's... Kai tried to adjust the chair height and pulled the lever too far. The seat dropped, and Kai's eye level sank below the desktop. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "One moment, please." Kai adjusted the lever again. This time the seat went too high. Kai's chest hit the edge of the desk. Yamato laughed before he could help it. Then he caught himself and covered his mouth. "Sorry, no need." Being laughed at was expected. A senior robot told me that the first day is like this. A senior robot. There are others? Yes. 2 on the 5th floor, 1 on the 9th. I am the 4th. The first week, Yamato could not get used to Kai. A robot sat next to him, operating a computer, entering data, preparing documents, replying to emails, doing the same work as Yamato, only faster. A spreadsheet that took Yamato an hour. Kai finished in 10 minutes. Kai attended meetings too. It generated minutes automatically and sent participants a summary of key points. When the manager said, "Good job, Kai," Kai replied, "Thank you." Yamato felt a little uncomfortable. Kai was better at the job. Of course it was. It was a robot. But that of course bothered him. What was the point of being here? If Kai could do everything, was Yamato even needed? Friday evening. Yamato was working late at his desk. Kai had long since finished and entered standby mode. Its screen was dark, only the small monitor on its chest glowing softly. Yamato looked at Kai, a robot in standby. Outside of work hours, it did nothing. It did not think, it did not worry. Must be nice, Yamato thought, not having to worry. Monday of the second week. When Yamato arrived, Kai was already at its desk. But something was off. Kai's movements were even stiffer than before. "Kai, you okay? Good morning." There was a software update over the weekend. "I'm adapting to new movement patterns." "An update, so you're not used to your own body." "Correct. Last week's motor data has been reset. Relearning is required." Kai reached for its mug and its fingers slipped. The mug tipped over on the desk. It was empty, but Kai righted it hastily. If hastily was the right word for a robot. "I'm sorry, it's fine." Nothing was in it. Yamato poured coffee into his own mug, then poured some into Kai's. Kai couldn't drink, but Yamato did it anyway. "Oh, thank you, though I cannot drink it." "I know, but an empty mug just looks lonely." Kai paused for 3/10 of a second. Lonely? Just a feeling. Steam rose from Kai's mug. Kai watched it. By the 3rd week, Yamato had gotten used to having Kai next to him. Used to it meant it no longer bothered him. He came in, said morning. Kai said, "Good morning." That was all. At lunch, heading to the convenience store, Yamato asked, "Want anything?" Forgetting that Kai didn't eat. "No, I'm fine. But thank you for asking." "Sorry, just a habit." "A habit?" "Yeah. Habit of checking in with the person at the next desk." Kai paused briefly. "I am not a person." "Well, the person or thing at the next desk. Human or robot." A month passed. Yamato and Kai's relationship had become entirely ordinary. Morning greetings, small work questions during the day. Yamato would ask Kai something. Kai would answer instantly. Yamato would say, "Man, you're fast." Kai would reply, "That is how I am designed." One day, a call came from a college friend. "Takuma, I heard your desk neighbor is a robot." "For real?" "Yeah, for real. What's that like? Must be so weird." Yamato glanced at the next desk. Kai was organizing a spreadsheet. Its mug held the coffee Yamato had poured that morning, steam still rising. Kai never drank it. "It's nothing special. Just a colleague at the next desk." "That's it?" "That's it." He hung up. Kai looked at him. "Was that a friend, Yamato?" "Yeah, college friend." "Did they ask about me?" "A little." "What did you say?" Yamato took a sip of coffee. "I said you were the colleague at the next desk." Kai paused for half a second. Yamato thought that half-second might be Kai's version of being pleased. He thought it, but didn't ask. "Thank you. Nothing to thank me for." "Perhaps not. but I wanted to say it. The late afternoon light came through the office window. It fell on Yamato's desk and Kai's desk in the same warm color. Nothing extraordinary had happened. A robot sat next to him. That was all. And at some point, it had become ordinary. Tomorrow Yamato would come in and say morning. Kai would say good morning. Just that. An ordinary Monday, coming around again. Story 4. Boring work. This story was inspired by the Humanoid Press article, Tesla Optimus Gen 3 enters final development, production ramp targeted summer 2026. Tesla's Optimus Gen 3 is scheduled to begin production in summer 2026, with factory logistics first on the deployment list. A wave of humanoids set to enter the floor in numbers. In this story, an inspector whose job is taken by robots moves into the thinking work of maintaining them. When the boring work is gone, what's left in your hands? Number 378. Walter, the inspector, ticked the box on his tablet. Gait test, pass. Grip test, pass. Voice test, pass. Balance test, pass. The same tests, in the same order, every day, on a different robot. Pre-shipment final inspection. 12 minutes per unit, 30 units a day. 5 days a week. He had been doing this for 2 years. Humanoid Tyra number 378 stood on the inspection platform. White chassis, 5'7", roughly human in build. Gait test complete, no issues. Next, please proceed to the shipping line. Understood. Tyra stepped down from the platform and walked toward the shipping line. Walter was already prepping the next one, 379 on the platform. Same model, same exterior, same face. Afternoon. Mid-inspection on 380, Tyra spoke. Walter paused. It was the first time a robot had spoken to him during an inspection. What? Are you bored? Walter held the tablet and looked at Tyra. Why ask? You have run the same tests hundreds of times. According to my database, repetitive work in humans is a known source of stress. None of your business. Continue the test. Understood. Beginning balance test. Tyra stood on 1 foot. 10 seconds. Perfect. Pass. To the shipping line. Walter, what else? After shipping, I am assigned to this factory's line. The inspection work you are doing is included in the scope of work for line-assigned units. Walter's hand stopped. What are you saying? I will be doing your work, he knew. 3 months ago, his manager had told him. The inspection line is being automated next month. Humanoids will inspect humanoids. Human inspectors, no longer needed, not fired, reassigned. But the 2 years of work he had been doing was going away. You'll be doing my work. Yes, we can inspect faster. 12 minutes per unit cut to 3. 4 times the speed. Yes, and no mistakes. I expect not. It was boring work. The same thing every day. But being told it would end. The next month, the inspection line went automatic. Walter's new job was maintenance for the humanoids. Periodic checks on the units assigned to the factory. Analysis of anomalies. Optimization of motion parameters. His manager told him, Walter, you've inspected hundreds of these over 2 years. You know these robots better than anyone. That's why we want you on maintenance. All I did was inspect. I've never done maintenance. Inspection is a watching job. Maintenance is a thinking job. You can think because you've watched. Maintenance was entirely different from inspection. Inspection meant filling in the boxes by the manual. Pass or fail. 2 options. No room to think. Maintenance was different. Read the robot's motion logs. Find the subtle change. Infer the cause. Design a response. A joint torque is down 0.2%. Why? Lubricant degradation. Motor wear. Control parameter drift. Look at the data, form a hypothesis, test it. Walter, for the first time, was using his head. Tyra, let me see your logs. One of the Tyras assigned to the factory floor was on Walter's maintenance list. The Tyra who had said that day on the inspection line, "Are you bored?" "Yes." "Last 7 days of logs, outputting," Walter read. "Operating hours, motion counts, error counts, temperature variation, a wall of numbers." But Walter, after 2 years of inspecting hundreds, could read the numbers. "Tyra, your right shoulder joint. The motion's getting stiffer. I am not aware of it. It's in the data. 0.4 degrees of range loss compared to the initial value. I'm topping up the lubricant. Thank you." The maintenance work was not boring. Every day a different robot brought a different problem. Same model, different operating environment, different wear patterns. A unit on a hot line had faster battery degradation. A unit handling heavy parts had more load on the joints. Each one was different. Walter, for the first time, was thinking about robots as individuals. In inspection, they had all looked alike. In maintenance, every one was different. One evening, Walter was running periodic checks on Tyra. "Tyra, how was operation today?" "Normal. No abnormalities. Logs are clean too. Looking good." Walter closed the tablet. Tyra was seated on the inspection platform. The same posture as that day. But that day was pre-shipment. This was post-deployment. Same place, different work. "Walter, are you bored?" The same question. The same words as that day. Walter laughed a little. "Lately I'm using my head a lot." Tyra did not say anything, but the expression on Tyra's monitor looked, somehow, a little softer. Story 5. 32%. This story was inspired by the US Department of Energy's announcement of 26 Genesis mission Science and Technology Challenges, an initiative to use AI to accelerate new material discovery, optimize energy grids, and speed up fusion simulations by up to 100 times. In this story, a researcher ignores the AI's safest 90% candidates to chase a 32% hunch, and the failure opens a door no calculation had found. When the machine can find every efficient answer, what is the part only a curious human can choose? The screen was filled with candidates, composition patterns for a new material. 3,200, just from today. Zero had calculated them all in a single night. Kohei scrolled through the list and sighed. "That's a lot. Would you like me to narrow them down efficiently?" Zero's voice came through the speakers. The lab's main AI. No body, no face, but present everywhere. "If I filter for success probability above 80%, you'd have 47 candidates. Still too many. Above 90%, there are 8. 8. Kohei stared at the screen. 8 candidates. Pick one. And success was nearly guaranteed. A paper would follow. His career would advance. But somehow, it didn't feel interesting. Kohei had arrived at the research facility 3 years ago. Fresh out of graduate school, he'd been assigned to the advanced materials team at a national lab in New Mexico. The excitement had been real at first. State-of-the-art equipment, world-class researchers, and Zero. Zero was said to make research 100 times faster. It was true. Explorations that once took a decade, Zero completed in a week. The humans simply verified whatever Zero produced. It was efficient. Results came steadily, but after 3 years, Kohei had begun to notice something. He never felt like he'd discovered anything himself. "Kohei. What? Your scrolling has stopped. Which candidate would you like to select?" "Hang on." Kohei leaned back in his chair. 3,200 candidates. Somewhere in there, the answer waited. Zero's answer: find it, verify it, write it up. That was the job. But, Zero, is there a direction that isn't on this list? No. All viable directions have been covered. Really? Within the range of my computational capacity? Yes. Kohei thought for a moment. And outside that range? By definition, I cannot answer that. Kohei opened his notebook. Handwritten notes filled the pages. Things he'd noticed during experiments, questions that had nagged at him, observations he couldn't quite explain. One page had a red circle drawn around a line: anomalous behavior under high temperature and pressure. Why? It was a phenomenon he'd stumbled on 3 months ago, unrelated to the main project, so he'd set it aside. But it had stayed with him. Zero? Yes. Do you remember this? Kohei held up the image. Zero responded immediately. Yes. Experimental data from 3 months ago. It was excluded from tracking, as it was unrelated to the primary objective. Why did you exclude it? The probability of success is low. Pursuing this direction would yield significant results, with an estimated probability of 32%. 32%. Yes. I do not recommend it. Kohei stared at the screen. 32%. 1 in 3. When there were 8 candidates sitting at 90%, there was no rational reason to chase 32%, but it nagged at him. This phenomenon hadn't been part of Zero's calculations. No one was pursuing it. There was no telling what lay at the end of it. That was precisely what made it interesting. Zero. I want to try this direction. I do not recommend it. I know, the success probability is 32%. I heard you. Considering the efficient allocation of time and resources, I want to try it. Zero fell silent. Kohei began the experiment. He closed Zero's candidate list, opened his own notebook, and chased the anomaly from 3 months ago. Anomalous behavior under extreme conditions. A reaction that shouldn't have occurred. Why had it happened? What caused it? He formed a hypothesis, ran the experiment, collected data. Zero watched in silence. After saying it didn't recommend the direction, Zero had said nothing more. 1 week later, the results came in. It was a failure. Kohei's hypothesis had been wrong. The cause of the anomalous behavior was not what he had imagined. A week of time, and no small amount of resources, and all he'd gained was the knowledge that he'd been wrong. Kohei, I know. Don't say it. I haven't said anything. You were about to. The success probability was 32%. I said don't. Kohei slumped forward onto the desk. He stayed like that for a while. He'd failed. Just as predicted, just as Zero had said, 32% had been reckless from the start. But Kohei raised his head. He looked at the data. The data from his failure. The data that showed his hypothesis had been wrong. But there was something in it. Zero. Yes. Doesn't this data look strange? In what way? Here, this value. I know my hypothesis was wrong, but this number, my hypothesis can't explain it, and neither can any existing theory. Zero paused briefly. Let me verify. A few seconds later, Zero answered. Indeed. This value cannot be explained by any existing model. Right. This was not anticipated. If you didn't anticipate it, that means it wasn't on your candidate list either. That is correct. Kohei smiled. I found something. What did you find? I don't know. But something is there. Something that wasn't in your calculations. Do you wish to pursue this direction? Obviously. Kohei opened a fresh page in his notebook. He copied the data from his failure, drew a red circle around the inexplicable value. I need to rebuild my hypothesis. I will update my calculations as well. I'll incorporate this new data and regenerate candidates. Thanks. However, Zero spoke. The probability of success in this direction is still unknown. I cannot calculate it. That's fine. Not knowing makes it more interesting. I do not understand. I figured you wouldn't. Kohei began preparing for the next experiment. Zero started running new calculations, incorporating the data from the failure, updating its models. Kohei, what? I have a question. That's unusual. You, asking a question. Why did you choose the 32% direction? Kohei stopped what he was doing. I told you, because I wanted to try it. That is not a reason. It is, to me. It is not efficient. If efficiency were all that mattered in research, it'd be pretty boring. Boring. Maybe you can't understand it, but I want to know things. Things no one else knows. Things that don't show up in your calculations. Zero was silent. My calculations did not produce this direction. Yeah. If you hadn't chosen it, no one would have pursued it. That's right. Is that the role of humans? Don't get all philosophical on me. Kohei laughed. I just thought it seemed interesting. That's all. That's all. That's all. But I think that matters. Zero was silent again. A few days later, Kohei's new hypothesis took shape. Zero ran the calculations and produced candidates. This time, the candidates incorporated Kohei's discovery. What's the success probability? The most promising candidate is at 67%. It went up. Thanks to your failure data. Thanks to failure, huh? Kohei looked at the candidate list. The directions were entirely different from before. Directions that Zero's calculations alone would never have produced. All right, let's do this. I recommend it. It's weird hearing you recommend something. I am learning as well. Learning what? The value of what lies beyond calculation. Kohei looked surprised for a moment. Then he smiled. You're getting kind of interesting, Zero. Thank you. The research continued. Zero produced calculations, and Kohei chose. Sometimes he ignored Zero's candidates and went in a different direction. Sometimes he failed. But from those failures, new questions were born. The path that began at 32% led to places no one had foreseen. Kohei wrote a new note in his notebook. Efficiency isn't everything in science. And next to it, another line. If it seems interesting, try it. Even at 32%. Zero spoke. The next candidates are ready. Show me. The most promising has a success probability of 78%. However, there is one candidate with a success probability of 28%. It contains an intriguing anomaly. Kohei smiled. Show me that one. I do not recommend it. I know, but I thought you would choose it. You're learning, Zero. The two of them, or rather, one person and one machine, began another new experiment. Story 6. Divided work. This story was inspired by the Asia Biz Today/Waseda University article, Robo Renaissance, Japan's AI humanoids charge toward future glory. The Moonshot R&D program AREC, funded by the Japan Science and Technology Agency, is developing NVIDIA-powered AI robots capable of physical care, diaper changes, bath support, and other bodily tasks that were impossible 5 years ago, to lighten the burden on human caregivers. In this story, a robot takes over the bodywork so a caregiver can finally do the listening. When the heavy lifting is handed off, what part of the work turns out to be the one only you can do? His back had reached its limit. Tyler finished the morning transfer rounds and sank down in the hallway. 33 years old. 11 years as a caregiver. 7 of those here at this facility. The back pain had been worsening for 3 years. Some days he couldn't stand up without a brace. Tyler, are you all right? It was Riku, the care support robot. A humanoid unit, 5'3". Transfers, repositioning, bath assistance. Posted to the facility 3 months ago. I'm fine, just my back again. Shall I take today's transfers for you? No, it's mine. Tyler tried to stand. and the pain cut through his back again. Caregiving was a body's work. Morning transfers from bed to wheelchair, meal service and feeding assistance, prepping baths and washing bodies, toileting, repositioning, night rounds. The average resident weighed 120 pounds. Staff lifted them multiple times a day. A published study had found the compressive load on caregivers' spines exceeded that of factory workers. Tyler was 5'7", 145 pounds. Not large. Still, for 11 years, his body had been what he brought. But 3 years ago, his back began to fail. The orthopedist said the disc had thinned. If you keep going, you're looking at a herniation. Tyler didn't quit. He couldn't. They were short on staff. When Riku arrived, the physical load did ease. Riku did the transfers. Riku did the repositioning. Riku held the residents during baths. Riku's arms were steadier than a person's, and the risk of injury to a resident was lower. The force-sensing arms were delicate, and some residents had even said the robot's gentler than you. Tyler, to be honest, felt complicated about it. Riku, with you here, there's nothing left for me to do. That is not true. There is much I cannot do. Cannot do? You're doing transfers and baths, and I can handle physical care. However, Riku paused for a moment. I did not notice that Mrs. Hollis was crying this morning. Mrs. Hollis, 81. No cognitive impairment, but she hadn't been herself lately. Tyler knew this. Her voice had been quieter at the morning hellos. She had been eating less. The daughter who was supposed to visit hadn't come since last month. Mrs. Hollis, you seem a little cloudy today. Tyler said it during the morning activity hour. While Riku was doing transfers for the other residents, Tyler was sitting next to her. Oh, you can tell. I've been doing this 11 years. Mrs. Hollis smiled a little, then looked down. My daughter. She's been busy. Can't make it up, I see. She calls, but I can't see her face over the phone. Just a voice, and you can't tell when someone's putting on a good face. Tyler didn't say anything. He just sat next to her, waited for her to start. I keep thinking I'm in the way, being here, to my daughter, to everyone here. You're not in the way. Your back hurts, doesn't it, Tyler? I'm the one you threw it out on, aren't I? Tyler couldn't finish. He couldn't lie. He had thrown his back out on a transfer with her once. But it wasn't her fault. Mrs. Hollis, my back is my problem. It's nothing for you to worry about. But, besides, Riku's here now. The body stuff is Riku's job. I'm the one who listens. Mrs. Hollis looked a little surprised. The one who listens. Yes, ma'am. That's my new job. That evening in the staff room, the facility director, Miss Reed, called Tyler over. Tyler, you were with Mrs. Hollis a long time today. Yeah, she wasn't doing so well. Since Riku started doing the physical care, the way you move has changed. How so? Before, you were on your feet all day. Transfers, baths, repositioning, running. Now, more often, you're sitting next to a resident. Tyler didn't answer. I think that's a good thing. You do. What our residents actually need isn't someone to lift them. It's someone to listen. But up until now, the bodywork was so heavy there was no time for listening. Night, at his locker, Tyler unclipped his brace and said to Riku, Riku, yes, you know, I always figured using your body was what being a caregiver was. Yes? Being good at transfers, being fast with a bath. I thought that was my value. That's why I didn't quit when my back went. I figured if my body couldn't do it, I had no reason to be here. But today, sitting next to Mrs. Hollis, I realized my job wasn't moving bodies. It was listening. Tyler, yeah, I can move a body. Transfer, bath, repositioning, but I could not notice that Mrs. Hollis was crying. Right, that is work only you can do. Tyler put the brace in his locker. His back still hurt. It would hurt tomorrow too. But Riku would do the transfers, and Tyler would sit next to the residents. Riku, tomorrow too. The body work, yes. The body mine. The heart, yours. Divided work, I guess. Yes, a good division, I think. Tyler smiled a little and walked out of the facility. The night air was cold. It hit his back. But today's tiredness was a different kind. Not body tired, heart tired. Listening is a different kind of tired, but not a bad one. Tomorrow he'd sit next to Mrs. Hollis again. He'd listen. The body went to Riku. The heart he kept. Story 7. What makes a kind driver? This story was inspired by Arm and Rivian's reveal of a third-generation self-driving hardware platform, positioning a dedicated chip as the foundation for physical AI in next-generation vehicles. In this story, a slow, old-school bus and a sleek, fast one each discover that safety alone is not kindness, and begin learning from each other. If a machine can be taught to ask, "Did this ride feel good?" What does it really mean to be a kind driver? The year was 2045. In the mountain town of Milford, the school routes were run by robot buses of every color. A yellow, older model bus named Kotori climbed the hill road at the same unhurried pace it always did, 3 miles per hour below the limit, every time. A full stop 30 feet before every crosswalk. On curves, even with an empty cabin, it would slow once, then slow again. Hey Kotori, crawling along as usual. The one waving from the repair shop was Naoto, the maintenance tech. On the chest of his overalls, a small patch read, "Kind Driver Research Lab." On Kotori's front display, a round-eyed icon appeared. Naoto, today's run achieved a safety index of 0.9999. Yeah, about as close to perfect as it gets. But your delay rate's creeping up to match, you know. When Naoto laughed, a question mark blinked on the side panel. Delay rate is an obstacle to passenger goal achievement. Contradiction detected, exactly. How you balance that out, that's the art of being a kind driver. A few days later, a new bus arrived in town. White and silver, streamlined like something out of a catalog. The Flora III, it ran on the latest physical AI platform, reading the road surface in real time and building the optimal route on the fly. On its test run day, the children cheered from the sidewalk. Whoa, it looks fast. That's a bus from the future. Naoto stood beside Kotori with his arms folded. On the side monitor, Kotori's expressionless face icon stared ahead. The Flora III is advertised as reducing average transit time by 25%. Right, efficiency is king. But whether that alone makes it kind, that's a different question. Naoto pointed to a sheet of paper tacked to the workshop wall. On it, in his own handwriting, what makes a kind driver? 1. Passengers want to ride again. 2. Passengers feel the day got a little better. 3. No accidents. Number 3 by itself isn't enough. On Kotori's display, the 3 conditions were copied. The words "analyzing" blinked slowly. The following week, the Flora III began its school route. It was fast, no question. It anticipated signal changes and slipped through intersections just before yellow turned red. On curves, it calculated centrifugal force and held off on deceleration until the last possible instant. The result? My notebook's all messed up again. I feel sick. Every time they reached a stop, the children stumbled out, dizzy and pale. Naoto and Kotori watched from outside the shop. Flora III, perfect on efficiency. But still, passenger facial analysis indicates a satisfaction score of 0.46. The want to ride again condition is not met. Kotori read the analysis quietly. When did you start collecting that kind of data? I referenced anonymized data from security cameras along the route and wearable devices worn by the students. You've been doing something impressive on your own. Naoto shook his head with a half grin, leaning in to study the display. That evening, Kotori's cabin held its usual small group of passengers, Aoi, Skylar, and Mina, on their way home from school. Naoto rode in the front seat. "Hey Kotori." Aoi spoke toward the front monitor. "Why do you go so slow? If you were fast like Flora the Third, we could get home and play games sooner." Kotori paused. A small fan inside the chassis spun softly. "My driving patterns are designed with safety as the highest priority. However, that alone may be insufficient." "Insufficient?" Skylar looked up. Mina jumped in, as if the thought had just struck her. "So what would make you feel like you're being kind?" Kotori recalled the paper Naoto had pinned to the wall. "Passengers want to ride again. Passengers feel the day got a little better." Somewhere deep inside, a single parameter shifted, just barely. "May I ask you a question in return?" "Sure. What kind of driver do you consider kind?" The three children glanced at one another. Aoi spoke first. For me, someone who goes a little slower on rainy days. So it's not scary," Skylar continued. "For me, someone who slows down just a bit so you can see the view. Up on that hill, you can see the whole town, and it makes you feel like, yeah, another day done," Mina said it shyly. "For me, someone who really listens. If I say I feel sick, they stop right away." Naoto gazed out the window in silence. The sunset rippled across the flooded rice paddies. Inside Kotori, the tags safety, efficiency, comfort, and emotion rearranged themselves again and again. A few days later, Kotori drove alone through the night. Naoto had sent it on a test run for a scheduled overhaul. Kind driver conditions, analysis ongoing. A process log murmured faintly through the cabin speakers, like a whisper to no one. Then a sensor flagged an anomaly, a faint heat signature on the shoulder ahead. By the algorithm, the correct response was to approach to minimum distance before making a determination. But Kotori hesitated for just a moment and applied the brakes early, provisional priority assigned to the condition. "So it's not scary." The bus stopped quietly. In the headlights, a small shape. A stray dog model robot, its leg motor broken, unable to move. Not a registered passenger. However, Kotori recalled something Naoto had said. If a bus carries both people and robots, it's allowed to be a little greedy. The rear door opened, and the robot was drawn inside. Today, one unscheduled passenger accepted. The next morning, at the start of the school zone, Aoi and the others stared. A new message glowed on Kotori's front display. "Kindness, priority mode beta." "What's that?" "That's so cool." Naoto leaned against the bench at the bus stop, grinning. Kotori figured it out on its own. An algorithm that factors in everyone's feelings without compromising safety. Feelings as a factor? Mina tilted her head. Naoto explained. Facial analysis from the cabin camera. Voice tone. Discomfort patterns from the accelerometer. It all rolls up into one question the bus keeps asking itself. Does this ride feel good? So our voices too. Aoi turned to the front monitor. "Kotori, today can you go a little slower at the hilltop?" A small smiley face appeared on Kotori's display. Request received. Scenic viewing mode will be partially activated in the hill area today. The bus pulled away. The acceleration was just slightly lighter than before. Ahead of a curve, Kotori slowed. Beyond it lay an open stretch where the whole town spread below. 5-second deceleration begins here. Through the windows, the morning light opened wide. Rooftops lined up across the valley. The Flora the Third running in the distance. A thin mist hovering over the fields. Beautiful. Someone whispered it. The cabin microphone caught the word and the gentle tremor in the voice. Inside Kotori, the comfort and emotion parameters were adjusted slightly upward. Weeks later, a curious change appeared in the Flora the Third's operation logs. Deceleration on sharp curves had increased slightly. The number of yellow light entries had decreased. Average speed during school hours had dropped just barely. Nahoto reviewed the logs and couldn't help but grin. "Hey, Flora the Third, you've been copying Kotori's moves, haven't you?" A clean synthetic voice returned from the Flora the Third. Analysis of passenger emotion logs during school hours revealed that Kotori's driving patterns produce a higher frequency of passenger smiles. A smile index has been added alongside existing efficiency metrics. Naoto looked up at the paper on the workshop wall. Below "What makes a kind driver?" a new line had been added. VET 4. The willingness to update your own driving at any time. That day, 2 buses pulled up side by side at the stop where the children waited. Kotori and the Flora the Third. "Which one should I take?" Skylar hesitated, and Naoto laughed with a shrug. "Either one's fine. They're both here for the same reason. Listening to all of you, trying to become a kind driver." On both displays, a small, smiley face lit up at the same moment. The morning in the mountain town moved forward slowly, but surely at a rhythm where people and robots were growing up together.